In this episode, you'll get a breakdown of the quote, "You're exactly where you are meant to be," and how to embrace surrender and change as the path to alignment. Welcome to Energy Alignment for Entrepreneurs, the podcast helping entrepreneurs be free from anxiety, stress, and tension through balancing emotions and consciousness expansion. Here's 3 things you'll learn today. Number 1, why this quote does not negate your power to change. Number 2, the role of grace in surrender in spiritual evolution. Number 3, move with faith rather than logic and second guessing. So, the quote, right? You're exactly where you are meant to be. What this calls for you and I to do is to learn how to see our lives from a different perspective. Of course, there are going to be goals and ambitions and desires that you may have not gotten directly in your hands yet. Now, that being said, when you step back to see from a different perspective, you could call it the bird's eye view or the jet lamp, where you are not narrowly just looking at one thing but considering everything simultaneously. You know, the word ubiquitous means to be seemingly everywhere at once. And this is the challenge of connecting your awareness and letting it guide your ego. Because the ego is a servant and it is fully necessary. The ego, in other words, is the mind, or in other words, what we call I or me. And that identity of who you see yourself as, it's very real, right? If you take a blade, you put that blade on your arm or your hand, you feel that you are real. That being said, there is something much grander simultaneously moving through you. And that is where you are not fully identified with the vessel. You understand that this body, this identity, is a vehicle for the spirit. And you ask, you learn, you surrender. And the fundamental meaning of being alive is to learn that the spirit can guide you and to let that spark be transmitted to others, right? Jesus came to this earth for one reason, really, and that was to share the connection to the Spirit. Now, that has nothing to do with me. I'm just bringing back the wisdom of what we are talking about to the truth. And now, you are exactly where you're meant to be. This can be hard. It can be hard to bring yourself to a state of being content, especially if you, in your actions, are not in alignment. See, the thing is, when you hear a quote, "You are exactly where you're meant to be," it's going to trigger the hell out of you if you have been living out of alignment, because you know you're not exactly where you're meant to be. But all simultaneously, you have to see that the pain, the misalignment, the purification, the purification by fire is a cleansing of the spirit in the vessel. The pain and the suffering is hinting at, hey, what are the changes that you can make so that your life isn't such a turmoil, right? You see, the relationships, the heartbreak, the people who trigger you, the environments, maybe you work at a job that you can't stand. You have to see that that is exactly for you. It's a gift. And when you let go of any perception related to the victim, then you see that nothing's happening to you, but it's all working for you. And to operate in this essence of bird's eye perspective, bigger picture sight, you detach in a healthy way. You don't numb yourself, but you have what, maybe it's a practice, maybe it's a multitude of practices, right? For me, it comes in the form of nutrition, helps keep my body feeling good and fuel my workouts. My workouts are a great outlet for energy. If I'm frustrated or if I'm tired, however I feel, when you work out, you prove something, not to other people, but you say, I'm going to show up. I'm going to put in the effort. I'm going to earn the life that I know I can create. I'm going to sow the seeds. And then you have maybe a meditation practice or a speaking practice, what I'm doing here, a writing act. There are many forms of expressing yourself, but that's kind of the art is you learn to feel what you're expressing, right? And as you do this, you change the energy, the frequency, the vibration that you are putting out into the world. So you are exactly where you're meant to be, even if you feel like your life sucks. Because that life sucking is teaching you what was the role that you played in making your life harder than it has to be. It could be gluttony, that could be lust, that could be reactivity in the form of behavior, tone of voice, rudeness to others, a lack of compassion, an inability to truly listen to another when they needed you to listen, right? Regret. It shows you what were those moments where I wasn't present that I needed to be present. I needed to act. I needed to not second guess myself. Now, the hard part is realizing that chewing on your memories, your experiences, that does nothing for you. You have to let the pain change how you show up. And that means now, today, in the moment, in the seconds, in the milliseconds. What are you choosing? What are you not choosing? Are you aware that cause and effect is prominent in life? That life doesn't have to be overly complicated, that you can reduce things to inputs and outputs, and that you can have a honest relationship to the question, what is making me weak? And then the funny thing is, you're going to be aware of what makes you weak, and you'll still end up doing the things that make you weak. But if you're present, then you'll feel the pain, you'll feel the draining of your vitality, and you'll learn through that. It might not be the change today, it might not be the change tomorrow, but it is the conscious awareness, the honesty in relationship to, man, this thing is not serving me. Man, this thing is draining me. Man, this behavior is not acceptable. It is not the type of person whom I want to be, and it is not how I would like others to treat me. So I'm going to do my absolute best to sit with this, to feel this, to let this consciousness show me that there's a new way of living, that there is a different style. And so, the three things you'll discover today. Number one, why this principle, why this quote does not negate your power to change. I've spoke a bit about this already, but when you accept responsibility for where you are, who you are, how you are, you get honest. With that honesty, you get insight, you get power and strength, you get clarity around, man, this is not right. This is not it. And then you foundational actions that keep you sane, right? For me, nutrition, working out, playing, business, writing, reading, meditation, fresh air, walks in nature, playing with the dog, right? Cleaning the house, taking care of my things, maintenance, doing the brakes on my car, etc. You and then working, right? Working to make money until you don't need to work to make money anymore because you have your own business that is self-sustaining and joyous. But until that grows, you accept, hey, I'm going to work. I'm going to put in the sweat, the blood, the tears. And ultimately, your power to change is in your ability to admit that you can change, right? So, what we're really talking about is the ground of honesty. And to be honest, you have to walk with uncertainty. That means you don't overplan your life. That means you let little things, I'll give you an example. A radiator pipe broke, it split in my house recently. And I sat with myself and kind of wondered, all right, what's the deeper meaning behind a pipe splitting? And for me, it kind of spoke to me in the form of, okay, well, we handled it, we cleaned it up, we shut off the water, we got the pipe fixed, we capped it, we cut it, etc. Temporary fix, but we're not getting water draining into our house anymore. Therefore, we won't have any mold get created because we were unaware of this drain or unaware of this pipe breaking, this leak, right? And then I look at that and I say, all right, in my life, what are the things that I'm maintaining or not maintaining, right? Where is the radiator split in my life, right? Where is that undetectable leak of water that could turn into mold in my life, right? You ask yourself those questions and then you kind of see, all right, well, I truly do feel I'm walking a grand path. I'm walking my path. I'm living an honest life and I'm doing my best. And sure, there are micro things that I can change and I'm working on changing them, you know? So it's that sort of contemplation and willingness to have a conversation with yourself based upon something that may seem like a surface level problem, a radiator pipe splitting and a water leak. But that's how life communicates to you. That's how God communicates to you. It shows you in subtlety, in practicality, the depth. And it's your job to live present, to create space, to not be so busy, distracted, numbed, um, drunk on shallow dopamine that you can actually have the energy to ask these questions, to have the conversation with yourself. Because how else are you going to get the insights if you don't ask the questions? You have a book of human intelligence and history inside of your heart. And what it takes is for you to realize that you are infinitely intelligent. Sure, other people will have authority and practical skills. For example, I'm learning how to run ads for my business. And sure, I will invest into programs and filtered, organized presentations of how to do something very straightforward, shallow, and practical, right? But then on the other extreme, you have to realize that you are the authority in life, that no one knows your heart better than you, and that the compass is within. The book of humanity is within. And it's just like music. If there wasn't pauses within the notes of music or songs, the song would be jack, it would be trash. Same thing with your life. The beauty is in the pauses, the micro moments, the space, the silence. So you need to have this orderliness around what your priorities are, what matters most to you, what keeps your spirit vital, what weakens you. Now, when you are honest, right, and you do what I've been saying you do, then you'll see you have the power to change. Because all the honesty that we're talking about, it leads you to see, man, I can change. These things need to change. I surrender. Help me change, spirit, intelligence, God, that which is within. Now, number two, the role of grace in surrender and spiritual evolution. It's funny how I kind of preface things, but it's natural because these points are very straightforward, if you will. So the role of grace and surrender in spiritual evolution is a necessity. You will not at all have the light shine in your being without realizing that you, the ego, the I, the thinker, is not all there is, right? For example, I love this metaphor, but you have so many different weather, right? Overcast, sun, partially cloudy, snow, hail, rain. But what's behind it all? The sky. The sky isn't judging Jack. If it's cloudy and raining, it's cloudy and raining, and the sky is with it. If same thing goes with the ocean, right? If the currents are rapid, the waves are big, the ocean is angry. The ocean does what it does. And on another day, if it's calm, there's no wind, it's sunny, it's quiet. The ocean does what it does. You have to tap into that form of awareness, realizing that you are the thoughts, but you're also the ocean in which everything presents itself. And that leads you to have this grace and surrender, just realizing that you have had contact or you know that this thinker, the thoughts that you have are not everything there is, that there's something so much deeper, profound, almost beyond words, right? We use words as communication, but the fact that we can even speak words, create sound, that in itself is quite magical, right? So, point number three, how to move with faith rather than logic and second guessing. And really, the adoption of faith is built from one of my favorite nuances, and that is that to believe is to hope, And to hope and believe is to wish. That is not a form of clarity. But on the other hand, if you have faith, you trust. And when you do a trust fall, you know that something is going to catch you. You don't hope, wish, or believe that you're going to be caught. And this is the difference between truly knowing thyself and being a puppet of false religion, right? There's many truth in scripture, but there are also things that seemingly have not been put into the books that were part of the story. And a quick reference practically, just look into Gnosticism. Besides that, though, it just logically, if you ask yourself, what was Jesus doing from the ages that they didn't talk about him in the Bible, right? They talk about him a little bit when he's a youth, and then they talk about him when he is this man, when he is the Christ that you know, when he is 30, when his ministry started. What in the hell was Jesus doing from youth to 30? Did those years just magically pass by in the snap of a finger? Like, so clearly, we are not being told the full story. And what I'm saying here is not that anyone had to tell me what I'm sharing with you here, but that it was already written on my heart, and it's written on your heart too if you do the work to unravel the story, the truth which is within you. And this is the same message as Christ. And when I say this, do not confuse those words with me saying I am like him. There's no comparison here. I'm not trying to be anything more than what I already am. And that's the same energy that when you operate through, you'll move with faith, and there is not any second guessing. Yes, you will tie the camel. You will do your oil change. You will check how much gas you have before a trip, right? Very straightforward, very 5-year-old like things. You will pay your bills. You will realize that an engine needs maintenance, that tires need to be inflated, that windows need to be cleaned, that faucets need to be drained and cleaned, right? The list goes on and on. Ultimately, moving with faith is a realization of what is most meaningful to you. Came across a YouTube video yesterday. This guy, similar niche, successful, beautiful vibration, easy to listen to, a bright individual. I don't even remember his name. Point being that he had a framework SCET. Number one, S equals simplify. Number two, C equals clarify. Number three, E equals earn. And number four, T equals transmit. You simplify what you care about. You simplify what matters to you. You clarify the ROI that you get in terms of what you're doing throughout your day. And then you earn your life. You put in the work, the sweat, the tears. Even when it feels like you're not where you're meant to be, you know that this is part of your path. And then T, you transmit the journey, you transmit the change in vibration, you share what you are. There isn't a becoming, there is who you are, and there is what you do each moment that changes who you are. The only constant is change. Nothing besides that is really true. The only constant is change. And so if you can get with the changes, if you can roll with the tides, if you can see that the sky has different weather every day, that the temperature is constantly changing, that the elements within your spirit and your soul, your being are ever in motion. That is the truth. Now, it is not up to you nor I. Don't believe anything I say. If you feel the truth, you feel the truth. And if you have friction arising, there is a meaningful reason behind that friction. And I dare you, look at it, sit with it, question it, be skeptical, and be present with that friction. And you'll learn the truth, the consciousness, the light. It's within you. Don't let anyone ever tell you anything but that. Now, the recap. You know why this quote does not negate your power to change? Although you are exactly where you are meant to be, you must still do your best to change, notice, and learn. You are the creator of the change that you do or do not make in your life. Number two, the role of grace and surrender in spiritual evolution. Spiritual change is determined by grace, surrender, alignment, and change itself. When you commit to surrender and change, it is inevitable that the darkness erodes like water eroding mountains over time. how to move with faith rather than logic and second guessing. When you are moving with faith and alignment, you feel a freedom from insecurity, a lack of second guessing, and a disappearance of doubt. This feeling is a sure confirmation to continue to walk the path you are being guided on. Now, you must have patience in letting your heart show you what is true. The game is to be honest about your circumstance and strengthen your backbone to carry your cross, letting go of subtle resistance. Thank you. You listening, thank you. Share it with a friend, please. New episodes out Monday, Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you want to get into physical great shape, just check out the description. You can also get the free emails below in the description. I genuinely have an amazing day. Share it with a friend. Let's go.